Restaurant industry is under stress, and with inflation and rising food prices, more diners, pubs, and eateries are closing their doors.
Somewhere in America right now, someone is staring at a fast food receipt wondering when $14 became the price of a burger and fries. Here's the answer. It happened the moment these companies decided your loyalty was something they could exploit. They raised prices, they shrank your food, they cheapened the ingredients, and they bet you'd keep showing up anyway. They felt entitled to your loyalty. Bad bet. Because Americans pushed back, millions of customers walked away. And now these chains are watching their sales collapse, their locations shut down, and in one case, their entire company filed for a spectacular bankruptcy. Some got taken over by Wall Street firms that stripped them for parts and left you with the bill. This is what happens when you take your customers for granted. These are 7 American restaurant chains that got greedy and paid the price. And trust me, this is just the beginning. Stay until the end to learn what the next 5 years have in store for customers across the US. Let's dive in. Number 7. Outback Steakhouse. For a long time, Outback was the steakhouse you didn't need a special occasion for. Birthday dinner, date night, a Tuesday when you wanted a steak and a bloomin' onion without spending a fortune. Around 700 locations. For millions of Americans, Outback was the affordable celebration. Then Outback decided affordable wasn't profitable enough. Bloomin' Brands, the parent company, started pushing prices hard. Beef costs went through the roof. But instead of absorbing any of it, Outback handed the entire bill to you. Every penny. So you handed it right back. Traffic fell, sales slipped. The company closed dozens of restaurants, laid off 100 corporate employees, and suspended the dividend. According to financial reporting, Bloomin' Brands stock collapsed by nearly half in 2025. In February, the CEO, Mike Spanos, stood in front of investors and said the company was, and I'm quoting here, currently not succeeding. You don't hear a CEO admit that very often. And while Outback was bleeding, competitors who didn't gouge their customers kept growing. Texas Roadhouse and Longhorn Steakhouse both posted strong gains. Same economy, same beef prices, different choices, different results. The message couldn't be clearer. Customers didn't stop eating steak. They stopped eating your steak. They went to Texas Roadhouse. They went to Longhorn. They bought a good cut from the grocery store and cooked it themselves. Half the price, twice the steak. Outback gambled that loyalty would survive a price hike. Customers proved them wrong. But number 6 isn't about prices. Number 6 is about a company that insulted the very people who kept it alive. Number 6, Cracker Barrel. Some restaurants sell food. Cracker Barrel sold a feeling. The rocking chairs, the country store, the peg game on the table, biscuits and gravy that tasted the same whether you were in Tennessee or Texas. For older Americans especially, walking into a Cracker Barrel was like stepping back in time. And that was the whole point. More than 660 locations, highways and small towns across the South and Midwest. Cracker Barrel built its entire brand on one promise: don't change. Then they changed. And they didn't ask you first. Actually, they proved they simply didn't care. Prices crept up. A family of 4 that used to spend around $60 started staring at bills closer to $75. And it kept getting worse. That's not a country diner anymore, but the prices aren't what made national news. In August 2025, Cracker Barrel rolled out a brand new logo. Gone was the old-timer man in overalls. Gone was the look customers had known for decades. In test locations, they stripped out the vintage Americana decor, the antiques, the clutter that made the place feel like your grandparents' house. They hired a San Francisco consulting firm to redesign a brand built for small-town America. That was the insult. Here's what the customers did about it. Social media went nuclear. Loyal customers called it a betrayal. Even President Trump publicly criticized the change. The backlash was so fast and so vicious that within 1 week, Cracker Barrel reversed the logo. Within a month, they suspended the remodel program and fired the design firm. But here's the thing about disrespecting your customers. You can undo the decision. You can't undo the damage. According to CNN, foot traffic had been down about 1% before the logo change. After it, traffic cratered by 8%. The stock fell hard. And here's the kicker. According to Fortune, Cracker Barrel was already down 16% in customer visits compared to pre-pandemic levels before the controversy ever started. They were already losing people. Then they gave them a reason to leave faster. Cracker Barrel's customers didn't just reject a logo, they rejected being taken for granted. The company assumed its base would accept anything. And the base said, "We don't need you. You need us." Now, number 5 brings us to 2 restaurants that share one parent company and one big problem. Number 5, Applebee's and IHOP. For millions of families, these 2 chains were where the simple stuff happened. A neighborhood dinner at Applebee's, Saturday pancakes at IHOP with the grandkids, the 2 for $20 deal that made a weeknight feel like a night out. both owned by Dine Brands Global, running more than 3,400 locations. For decades, these were the definition of affordable, no-fuss family dining. Then they stopped being affordable, and families stopped coming. Dine Brands' own corporate filings tell the story. Both chains raised prices while customers started pulling away. The company describes its customers as economically cautious. That's corporate speak for people are watching every dollar and deciding we're not worth it. Customers earning under $50,000 a year pulled back the hardest. The people who built these brands walked away first. The numbers got ugly fast. Sales kept falling quarter after quarter while corporate cut staff. In just the first half of 2025, franchisees opened 16 restaurants but closed 85. That's 5 closures for every new door. And this pattern isn't new. Back in 2017, Applebee's shuttered over 100 restaurants in a single year. The same mistake, the same consequence, and they still didn't learn. Customers talk about the sticker shock when the check arrives. You add a drink, tax, and tip to what was supposed to be a casual dinner, and suddenly you're paying what you'd spend at a nicer independent restaurant with better food and a server who actually seems happy you're there. The two chains that called themselves America's neighborhood restaurants, they lost to the actual neighborhood. Local diners, home-cooked meals, places where $75 feeds the whole family and then some. Applebee's and IHOP didn't get replaced by another chain. They got replaced by you deciding you could do better on your own. Maybe not such a bad thing. At number 4, we move from casual dining to a coffee empire that bet everything on the idea that you'd keep paying more. And lost. Number 4, Starbucks. For a generation, Starbucks was the small daily luxury. A familiar green sign on every corner. The place between home and work where you could sit down, slow down, and drink something that cost more than it probably should, but felt worth it. Close to 17,000 company-owned U.S. locations. Starbucks didn't just sell coffee, it sold a feeling. Then it killed the feeling and kept jacking the prices. Drinks that cost $4 a decade ago now run $6, $7, $8. For someone on a fixed income, that daily latte isn't a treat anymore, it's a math problem. But price was only half the betrayal. Starbucks declared war on its own workers. More than 500 stores voted to unionize. Workers walked out in cities across the country, saying the company cut hours, fought organizing efforts, and squeezed baristas while the CEO collected nearly $100 million in total compensation. According to the Institute for Policy Studies, that's the widest CEO to worker pay gap of any company in the S&P 500. $100 million at the top, part-time hours at the bottom. Customers watched this happen, and they made a choice. They kicked Starbucks right in the spreadsheet. According to ABC News, Starbucks posted about a year and a half of falling same-store sales. A year and a half of customers saying no. The company responded with a $1 billion restructuring plan. Hundreds of stores closed, thousands of jobs cut, including the flagship unionized roastery in Seattle. Baristas at closing stores said they were offered transfers to locations 30 or more miles away. No relocation help, no raise. Just good luck getting there. Customers who still walk in describe a place that doesn't feel like the Starbucks they remember. Pickup counters jammed with mobile orders. Wrong drinks handed out. Baristas visibly exhausted and understaffed. The third place between home and work turned into a to-go counter with a premium price tag. Starbucks built an empire by selling you a place to be. Then it gutted the place, burned out the people who worked there, and expected you to keep paying $8 for coffee you could make at home for 50 cents. You didn't. Now, if Starbucks lost the experience, number 3 lost something even harder to get back. The biggest restaurant chain in America, shrinking by 1,000 stores at a time. Number 3, Subway. Not long ago, the $5 footlong was practically the national anthem of cheap lunch. Subway rode that deal to become the single largest restaurant chain in the country. At its peak in 2015, over 27,000 U.S. locations. More than McDonald's. More than Starbucks. More than any restaurant, anywhere. If you wanted a fast, affordable sandwich, Subway was the obvious answer. The $5 era is dead, and so are thousands of Subway stores. What used to cost $5 now costs close to double. But Subway didn't just squeeze you, it squeezed the people who own the restaurants too. According to the North American Association of Subway Franchisees, the company treats franchise owners like corporate ATMs. Mandatory remodels costing 6 figures per location, rising fees, tighter controls, and all while the average Subway location brings in less than $500,000 a year in sales, according to franchise disclosure documents reported by Restaurant Business. A single Chick-fil-A averages over $8 million. That's the gap these franchisees are trying to survive. In 2023, Subway was sold to private equity firm Roark Capital for roughly $9.6 billion. New Wall Street owners. Same old problems. Remember that name? Roark Capital. We'll come back to what private equity does to the restaurants you love. Since its peak, Subway has lost roughly 7,600 U.S. locations. That's nearly a third of the entire chain gone. They've lost more stores than the total number of Taco Bells in the country. Insane. And it's not just numbers on a page. In Oregon, according to Finance Buzz, stores were shut down with zero warning. A manager named Joanne Kennedy told local news she was completely and totally blindsided. She said food deliveries had stopped arriving, but corporate kept saying everything was fine. In January 2026, a 43-unit franchisee filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. Customers noticed the decline too. Sandwiches that seem smaller, bread that doesn't taste like it used to, prices that make you wonder why you're not just walking to the deli down the street. And increasingly, that's exactly what people do. They walk to the deli, they make lunch at home, they go anywhere else. The chain that became #1 in America by offering a deal lost nearly a third of its restaurants when it forgot the deal was the entire point. Subway bet you had no choice. You proved you had plenty. Now, if you're watching this and it's hitting a nerve, do me a favor. Hit subscribe and drop a comment below. Tell us which of these restaurants finally pushed you too far and what you saw that made you say, never again. A price, a portion, or something you'll never forget. We make these videos to arm you with the truth about what's happening to American dining. Your engagement helps us reach more people who need to hear it. Let's keep going with number 2. Number 2, McDonald's. McDonald's made one promise for 70 years. Affordable food for everybody. That was it. That was the deal. They broke it. According to a Finance Buzz study, prices on popular McDonald's items doubled between 2014 and 2024. Doubled. In that same window, overall U.S. inflation was 31%. McDonald's jacked up prices more than 3 times faster than the actual cost of living. And then an $18 Big Mac receipt went viral and became the single most shared symbol of fast food greed in America. Customers didn't write angry letters. They just stopped coming. Sales went backwards. The worst decline since the pandemic, according to Restaurant Business. Traffic from lower income and middle income customers plunged by nearly double digits, and that trend lasted close to 2 years. That's not a slump. That's a revolt. The CEO, Chris Kempczynski, told investors that consumers are grappling with uncertainty. But let's be honest, uncertainty didn't make people abandon McDonald's. The prices did. The quality did. People post photos of sad burgers with wilted lettuce and half-filled fry boxes, saying they haven't walked through those doors in years. Parents who used to swing through the drive-thru as the cheap option now say the grocery store is cheaper. Kempczynski himself admitted that breakfast traffic is dropping because Americans are skipping the meal entirely or making it at home. McDonald's panicked. They launched a $5 meal deal. They brought back snack wraps after 9 years. They rolled out an $8 Big Mac extra value meal. All of it damage control for a wound they gave themselves. But here's what McDonald's still doesn't understand. You can't charge premium prices for fast food and then act surprised when people treat you like a luxury they can cut. Lower-income Americans aren't trading down to McDonald's anymore. They're driving right past the golden arches, and all the $5 promotions in the world won't fix that. You don't win people back with coupons after you've spent 2 years telling them their money isn't worth much to you. McDonald's broke the one promise that made it McDonald's. And customers did the one thing McDonald's never planned for? They left. And as we've already seen with Subway and Roark Capital, once Wall Street gets its hands on a brand you love, the story tends to end one way. Which brings us to number 1, and the worst example on this entire list. Number 1, Red Lobster. For millions of American families, Red Lobster was where celebrations happened. Birthdays, graduations, anniversaries. A Friday night when you wanted to feel like you were doing something special without needing a special occasion budget. The Cheddar Bay biscuits. The lobster tail. That moment when the plate hit the table and you felt like you were treating yourself and your family to something good. Red Lobster opened in Lakeland, Florida in 1968 and grew into the largest seafood restaurant chain in the country. More than 700 locations. For working class and middle class families, this was the fancy dinner. And for decades, it delivered. Then Wall Street walked in, and within 10 years, the whole thing collapsed. In 2014, Darden Restaurants sold Red Lobster to Golden Gate Capital, a private equity firm. What happened next should be studied in business schools. Golden Gate immediately flipped Red Lobster's real estate, selling off the buildings for $1.5 billion in what's called a sale-leaseback deal. In plain English, they cashed out the company's most valuable asset and then forced the restaurants to pay rent on buildings they used to own. Red Lobster went from owning its own roof to writing a rent check every month on buildings it had already paid for. Then came the endless shrimp disaster. In 2023, Red Lobster made its ultimate endless shrimp deal a permanent menu item. Sounds like a crowd pleaser. But according to bankruptcy filings, the promotion lost roughly $11 million in a single year. Court documents raised questions about whether the deal was designed to benefit Thai Union, a major seafood supplier and Red Lobster shareholder, by driving massive shrimp purchases regardless of whether they made money for the restaurant. The supplier ate well. The restaurant bled out. In May 2024, Red Lobster filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, hundreds of millions in debt. According to Restaurant Business, 131 locations were closed during the proceedings. Workers posted on social media that they got no warning. One day, the restaurant was open. The next day, a liquidation company was auctioning off the fryers online. Hundreds more workers were laid off. Communities that relied on those jobs scrambled. Families who celebrated milestones at their local Red Lobster showed up to find the doors locked, a note in the window, and nothing else. How did a 56-year-old American institution fall this fast? It's not complicated. A private equity firm bought it, sold off the real estate, loaded it with debt, ran a promotion that bled cash, and walked away when there was nothing left to take. Red Lobster wasn't killed by customers leaving. This is the one case where the customers didn't get the chance to fight back. The villain got there first. Wall Street dismantled Red Lobster from the inside before a single customer could vote with their feet. And that might be the most infuriating story on this entire list, because the families who love this place didn't abandon it. It was stolen from them. What you've just seen from these 7 chains is not a blip. It's the opening round of a fight the restaurant industry cannot win. Sit-down chains in the US are already nearly a fifth smaller than they were before 2019. Bankruptcies surged last year. More than half of restaurant operators say traffic is still going the wrong way. And the playbook that got these 7 companies in trouble? Raise prices, shrink portions, sell the brand to Wall Street? Other chains are still running it right now. Over the next 5 years, this clash between customers and corporations is only going to get louder. Either restaurants start earning your business back with real value, real quality, and real respect, or more of them will end up exactly like the 7 you just watched, shrinking, closing, or getting carved up by investors who never cared whether the food was any good. These 7 chains drew first blood, but they won't be the last. Not every location is terrible. Some of these restaurants are run by franchisees and managers who fight every day to keep quality high despite what corporate hands them. This isn't about those people. This is about the executives who put the spreadsheet ahead of the plate. And here's what you need to know. You've already proven that walking away works. McDonald's didn't launch a $5 meal deal out of generosity. Cracker Barrel didn't reverse a logo because of a press release. They did it because you stopped showing up and the revenue disappeared overnight. Your absence is the only language these companies speak. Every time you choose a local restaurant over a debt-loaded chain, you're voting for one version of this industry to survive the next 5 years and another one to collapse. 7 chains. 7 companies that made the same bet. They bet you'd keep paying no matter what. They lost. You walked away from Outback and went to Texas Roadhouse. You rejected Cracker Barrel's rebrand overnight. You stopped showing up at Applebee's and IHOP and went to the local diner instead. You made your coffee at home and Starbucks closed hundreds of stores. You abandoned Subway for the deli down the street. You turned McDonald's into a cautionary tale about what happens when fast food isn't fast or cheap. And Red Lobster? Wall Street stole that one from you. But the lesson is the same. You don't owe these companies your money. You never did. And the moment they stopped earning it, you proved it. Share this video with someone who deserves to know what's coming before their next meal out. And leave a comment telling us which restaurant finally pushed you too far and what you saw that made you say, never again. Click on that next video on your screen. We will see you there. Thanks for watching.